G'day guys, welcome to this weekly developer update. Once again, Joe, lovely to have you on board.
It's always a pleasure. Busy week.
Yeah. Crazy week. We've seen a lot going on in the industry, sort of the downfall of, or the fallout from FTX, Alameda and SBF and everything else going along those lines. It's a wild time.
It's crypto, baby, right?
Crypto, baby.
It's crazy. One thing I love about our weekly update is it keeps people informed as to things, the progress of things. We get GitHub links where people can dive into what's being built, and they can understand the assumptions behind what's being built. They can look into, and the community audit is a powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
Proof of development is a powerful thing. The biggest problem with FTX was that we had some guy that had not even a nice face, I don't think, but was the face of the the exchange, and everyone was saying, oh, he's the next this, he's the next that. And the reality was there's no way to do due diligence in that environment, right? There's no way to quantify risk. There's no way to audit what's actually happening. And ultimately, building on a foundation of transparency starts with open source code. And so I have to really commend our communities, our core developers, a lot of even community tooling in the ecosystem that really has no token, but we still get to see, run, and play with the source code. That's huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's one thing we touch on basically weekly on our Hash It Out series, the pros and cons, and basically having that transparency. People can see and know their assumptions about what they're sort of interacting with. And basically this sort of iterates self-custody as well. That's something I'd like to mention. A lot of people still have their coins on exchanges. Obviously, when things go belly up, they obviously they don't have access or control of their keys. So obviously the exchange wallet itself takes control of that. Just like to reiterate, get your coins off the exchanges and into self-custody. That we have a number of great wallets. We have a cold wallet solution. We're working with Ledger to try and get that sort of sorted. Obviously, that's been a bit of a thorn in our side at the moment, but trying to bring that through as quickly as possible. But yeah, by all means, get that your keys and you're in control.
Yep. Remember your keys and know your code. That will take you a long way in this space.
Yep. Just what you mentioned, just on the taking things off from the beginning. Just having these weekly developer updates and the transparency about what's going on in the ecosystem, and the confidence that it instills in me that we have a nice, vibrant community. We're seeing numerous people jumping into these developer updates, seeing a lot of new faces, a lot of old faces coming in at different times as well and providing updates. It's fantastic to see and provide confidence in the ecosystem that things are being developed and actively worked on, researched, developed, new tooling being put out to the community to be utilized. It's great to see.
Yeah, I have to tip my hat to everybody involved in building things the right way.
Yep, definitely. All right, well, let's jump into this week's developer update. And we're kicking things off with greenhat and his team. So JUSEC has drafted a transition to spec type for the token IDs to distinguish them. So, for example, the Oracle reward, NFT, pool NFT, etc. And that's on the type system level. On greenhat's progress himself, it's been a little bit limited because he's been unwell. Has revamped the boxed register value access to allow for passing of the box with invalid register value. So that's for Rosen Bridge. Hunted down a nasty WASM memory access bug that was causing crashes in the scanner for Rosen Bridge. Started testing the voting and updating of the contracts for running the Oracle pool, so finding and fixing a few bugs in the process. and successfully tested the first stage of voting, preparing the changes to the refresh contract. So it's on epoch length to be voted on in the second stage. And then next up, just finishing Sigma Rust pull request 647. Continue to test the voting and updating of the running of the Oracle pool. Number of issues here from the Oracle pool that is fixing up. So it's looking for V2 alpha milestone will be completed and start the next stage. So V2 beta open testing on testnet, and the current progress towards the release is tracked on the roadmap as always. I think there was a bit of a shout out also later in the update from MHS about greenhat helping him out on the Rosen front as well. And next up we have Alex.
All right. So I know that he's been working on the node and protocol development, specifically finding some issues and finding fixes. Looks like the testnet checkpoint PR to bypass 5.0 blocks violating the monotonic creation height rule is something that he was working on. He reviewed PRs for and finalized the 5.0.3 candidate. Spent a few days digging around trying to figure out why transactions can be verified locally successfully but failing when submitted to the node, and discovered an issue. So he opened a new issue that we'll get a solution for, hopefully. Looks like he made successful transactions posting for now. Made API methods to broadcast and check transactions, accepting not the JSON, but the transaction bytes, and we'll add new method description, polish, and invite everyone to review the new PR he's working on. He made a forum post on 5.0 activation details. Please update your node to 5.x, no rush. I think at this point we should have like, let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, roughly 21 days after the time this video comes out. So everybody that's out there that's running a full node wallet or solo mining, please update your node. Looks like after reviewing the, or it looks like next he's going to be reviewing the Explorer PR again for 5.04. On other matters, he's been playing around with decentralized grid bots. It looks like he got his first successful transactions for the decentralized grid trading matched with Oracle or with Spectrum's AMM liquidity pool. He also gave a couple of talks in Dubai. One of them was about the assumptions of cryptocurrency protocols, and the other one based on proof of work in DeFi. I know many of you would have loved to attend, but I don't think there was actual live recording of that. Who knows? Maybe we can get him to do it again at a summit.
Yeah, watch this space. It's fantastic that he's being able to dive into the 5.0, picks up a couple of issues, but then playing with a little bit of a side project and the decentralized grid sort of side of it, just take his mind off the main protocol and just thinking about the EUTXO structure and different ways and that can be utilized. It's great to see.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting way. I hope to see that empower miners, It's ultimately our first liquidity providers, right?
Yep. The supply side, that's for sure. Okay, next up we have Morphic, and he continued working on sigma.js and the related Sigma code base, so reorganization and refactoring. On Sigma side itself, there's initial setup of sigma.js exporting to the JavaScript module. Then on to Appkit, he implemented the Ergo tree template helper class, reviewed Appkit PRs by MrStahlfelge. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and an ERP that he 3 in the ERP that he reviewed. Miscellaneous, he did a security audit of 2.2.2220. So he's going to be taking a break from auditing for a little while of the MrStahlfelge's wallet releases. So if anyone wants to check that out, then please do so. There's a lot of discussions in Discord as always. And next up, he's going to publish sigma.js on npm.js. And next we have MrStahlfelge.
All right, so it looks like in his work this week, he worked on the wallet app. That was the 2.1.222.0, which was released on GitHub, Google Play Beta, and Terminus Test Flight. It brings the address book and Ergo auth for cold wallets. He also implemented features for the next release, added a send funds confirmation screen instead of immediate sending, implemented automatic consolidations of boxes on send-in funds, implemented ErgoPay support, multiple addresses for selection. And it looks like he was also working on the Appkit. The Babel fee PR discussions and further work was done, and enhanced the unsigned transaction builder to be more flexible. There are new methods for adding boxes that are already in the latest snapshot, and fixed an issue in Sigma state to resolve the Appkit issue 199.
I love the wallet app version numbers. Always get us tripped up at times.
He's busy, you can tell, you know.
Yep. Another busy man, Luivatra, and on Paideia. So it's working through the proposed smart contracts. Next up is creating the basic actions. So we'll start with the change config and send transaction from Treasury. So hopefully it'll be done during the next week or so, and can start exposing it all through an API. So we can work on connecting the front end to the contracts. It's important to note that the contracts are far from done, but the main functionality is there, allowing for end-to-end tests on the testnet. So before hitting the mainnet contracts, they will need to be further fleshed out on the security side, and then the on-chain code will probably need to be worked on so it's running and stable enough. So all in all, progress is mostly going according to plan. And next we have Captain Nemo.
All right, so it looks like the Babel fee support is pretty much done. Just polishing the UI to release a new beta version, probably today or tomorrow. With Nautilus, updated old Babel fees branch to use the new version of Babel fees contract. Reworked internal transaction builder to use Fleet under the hood, and added mempool tracking for Babel boxes. On the Fleet side, fixed some minor transaction building issues and added prove dlog and sigma prop, or added prove dlog sigma prop and group element to basic constant serialization.
Pretty big update, this one. So there's been a lot of talk and review about the Babel fees contract. For people who are new to the ecosystem, just want to give a rundown on what the Babel fee is and sort of how that interacts in the ecosystem?
Sure. So every transaction has a base fee that is required for it to execute. You need to pay miners, for the computation that you're running on the network. What Babel boxes allow you to do is essentially interact with a specialized type of swap contract on the back end that allows you to not hold erg and still be able to execute a transaction. So if I have any token with Babel liquidity, I'll be able to send and complete a transaction even if I have that token and no erg. And so what that takes us away from is the DeFi experience that many people run into the first time on Ethereum, where they move into a position and they say, wow, this is great. But then they need gas. They needed ETH in their wallet to actually get out of that position. And as many of you may have experienced, gas price was less stable than it is at the pump. So, there would be even times where you try to refill your balance to pay the current price of gas, and then gas would go up and, you'd kind of get stuck or have to refill, right? So what Babel boxes do is they basically prevent people from getting stuck on the side of the road.
Yeah, there's a number of different use cases, and one that's commonly sort of thrown around is the use of smart pools and the potential for miners to be able to mine native tokens. So with doing so, they might have just mined to that mining pool and received, say, token X and not have any base erg. Babel fees basically allows the miner to pay the transaction fee in token X and be able to make that transaction, which is fantastic. And that's just one use case that we sort of that comes to mind. There's numerous sort of things in the ecosystem going forward.
Sure. And because of the structure of Babel boxes, it does allow for people to potentially use off-chain bots as they're more developed to arbitrage between the price of Babel fees and the prices on dexes.
Yep. Open up new markets across the board. It's interesting.
Well, it just creates, less friction.
Yep. And next up, we have koutelier and the Comet update first. So MGPI is rewriting and improving the smart contracts. So they postponed the lottery launch. They hired SEPA to work on the Burn DAO. The Comet holders will be able to vote, and the OG community members will have the ability to create polls and questions. And then on to Emporas. So the Emporas LLC is officially created, and they're on the stage that they will list products, so designing for new partners and reaching influencers to promote the merch. So Emporas is basically an ecosystem, sort of like how would you describe it? Like a decentralized storefront where people can sort of promote their own products and list their own, have their own merchandise for sale. It's great.
Call it a type of community advertising, community advertising space where, you get kind of off-chain merchandise, and projects may be interested in even supporting or offering discounts, or using them even for bulk orders for like events. There's a lot of potential use case there, and it's nice that they're building out payment solutions that support the network.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pretty fond of a hoodie, and I saw some nice Azarus ones up there, so could potentially be making a couple of purchases for next year. We're leading into summer here in Australia, so definitely won't get any use throughout summer. But I'm quite fond of swag, and we see some beautiful logos throughout the Ergo ecosystem. So I'll be definitely making some purchases on that storefront. And next we have QX and ErgoPort.
All right. So with ergoport.dev or my.ergoport.dev, looks like the first thing that's been being worked on is Sigmavote. That's pretty much done in its current state. That will be discussed at the next Sigma meeting and released after, if agreed upon. Added in anonymous voting option for any vote. Still able to restrict multiple votes from the same person, which is good to consider when you're talking anonymous voting. Added webhook into Ergo Discord vote channel to post in addition to the DMs people will receive. The current configuration notifications on day 1, 3.57, and closed on the 8th, which can be changed. Notify with Discord or Telegram DM. Working on Twitter DM and email. That's pretty nice to see as well.
Yep.
Remaining before the release, archive page for past votes to be able to view them. Strip voter info from visible archive of the vote and just leave results. And maybe a discussion area below each vote. Maybe. So will you give us the rundown on the Sigma program, CW?
Yeah, so the Sigmavote program is basically a community initiative to get like-minded people to share their skills in the Ergo ecosystem. So you could have, you don't have to necessarily be a developer to interact with the Ergo ecosystem. You can utilize drafting skills, community management, graphic design, whatever your talent is, a community needs it. So Sigmanauts is sort of a combination of getting people together and working on such initiatives such as marketing or anything for that matter. So what the Sigmavote there is proposing is being able to vote on different proposals that's being put forward and different initiatives for the Sigmanaut group. But yeah, it's definitely great to see that the Sigmanauts are finding their own voice and figuring out a number of things on the governance front, the treasury management side of things, utilization of resources. It's fantastic.
Awesome. It looks like QX has also been working on his bot. All bot responses are going to stay by default. Only ErgoPad and GitBlock have vanished after 30 or 60 seconds turned on. This means you can DM the ergoport bot and the message will not delete.
It's a great little community resource, and it just goes to show that you don't have to have something that's huge and impactful, but in its own right, throughout the ecosystem can be utilized in different ways. And the bots there, how we first got involved in the Ergo ecosystem, creating these little bots, and now he's creating things for the Sigmanaut group. It's great.
Yeah, I kind of look at it like if you really look at finite state machines, right? You build, a little tool with a little use purpose. Oftentimes you can plug it into the assembly line, and if you go through a much more complex process, just having that one tool in the lineup can be huge.
Yeah. This might be raise a question anyway. I've heard you mention finite state machine, and I've seen a couple of questions from the community about what that actually is. Can you elaborate on what you mean by finite state machine?
Sure. So it's like a special purpose computer. When you're running smart contracts, let's say in Ergo, for the most part, you are building a little assembly line of contracts with a very specific purpose, right? Versus in Ethereum, you would, throw all of the logic, basically on chain, and it would compute like it would on your computer. It's not really how Ergo script works. Rather, it's stages of verification. So you could almost look at it like a manufacturing process, right? You could look at a series of steps that each step you go through, you verify on chain that step has been completed. And, at the end, you kind of, let's say, get the product that series of steps was designed to produce that output, right? So you're kind of going through a multiple stage manufacturing process is a very simple way to put it. And so having, that type of bot where, you potentially can get notified if there's changes, notified if you hit a block. It's just a very valuable tool.
Yeah, just a simple notification on your phone. You don't have to have running, like, say, Hive OS notifications and email notifications, all kinds of things. So you can just have everything all in one little simple area, such as a Telegram bot, and get those messages and notifications as such. But yeah, on the Ergo script front, it's just basically the term we use is multi-stage contracts.
Yeah.
A little update here from Anon BR. So he did a small change on the Babel fees PR after your approval. So describing how to use register 6 or R6, which he forgot to add on the approved version. It can merge to the PR if you guys have no objection. So MrStahlfelge says it's checked and all good. Also, a little update here from pragmaxim.
Looks like he's mostly researching and spiking in the blockchain persistence area, and has some specific requirements like reverting superseded forks and such. So nothing concrete. He's still digging in, reading, researching, and thinking. Sometimes that's how life works, right? You need a place to work, and you also need a place to think.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to go back and forth between the two.
Definitely. Next up, we have scalahub. So he wrote test for the LP contract in the Dexy side of things, so the exchange, deposit, and withdrawal, and just working on some more tests for the LP side, which is intervention. And we'll be pushing the code tonight. So by the time this video released, the code should be out. And next we have Ilya from Spectrum.
All right, so it looks like Ilya is polishing EAP 40. As well as on the Spectrum network, he's implemented the Seek protocol handler for initial handshaking, testing the P2P network and fixing observed bugs. Currently, nodes are successfully establishing connections, request sync protocol, but fail to complete the substream negotiation process properly. So he's still working on it.
There's been a little bit of a discussion here around ErgoTS also, and if it's still relevant. Nick Pete or Greenhat mentions to use Ergo Rust, Sigma Rust, and then fleet and SDKs and numerous other ways to compile and create transactions. So just moving on. We have MHS and the Rosen Bridge. So the bridge is now live on Ergo and Cardano mainnets in soft launch mode. So it's a beta UI is live at soft.rosen.tech. Now it's a private test, so not usable by the end user. Currently, they're setting things up with the guards and watches, and will be updated, changing during this process. Later, they'll distribute test tokens, and we'll start the public beta. So in bold as well, please don't use it. Please do not use it right now. You'll definitely lose your money. Disclaimer. It has a number of sort of transactions here as well. So the first transaction, first transfer has been processed today from Ergo to Cardano, and the user sent 5,000 Rosen test wrap tokens to the bridge on Ergo. So the watchers committed and reported the event. A number of links there. The event was triggered, and then 8 out of 10 guards saw the triggered event and agreed that the payment on Cardano network. So the payment transaction link is posted there. And distributing the fees between the watchers and guarders with the link. So on the Ergo side, there's the token ID, and then the Cardano side. And once again, the user sent 5,000 tokens. 2,000 token is deducted as the bridge fee, and 200 token as the transaction fee. So 2,800 tokens has been sent to the final destination on Cardano. So congratulations for that achievement.
Yeah, that's a big step forward. No, everyone, please remember when you're interacting with the testnet, what's they're playing around with right now is probably going to get burned, right?
Yep.
And so keep that in mind.
Watch this space. But opening up the ecosystem for the first time, it's amazing. So this is a ergo-centric bridge. It's a little bit of different design to the way sort of traditional bridges are sort of constructed, by having contracts on multiple blockchains and different attack vectors by having that exposure there. But the part I find interesting is other ecosystems being able to utilize Ergo's technology, such as the mixing schemes and numerous other sort of post technologies there. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. I think that we can definitely use the UTXO model to build a unique DeFi ecosystem that EVM chains simply can't compete with, because it's either too inefficient or too expensive. And the more that we build on that foundation, we do, open up our ecosystem to be a really unique space for DeFi.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. And looking back, like a few years, 5-6 years or so before, or say 2017, when DeFi and Ethereum was basically starting to be built out, 2018 into 2019, and you could see all these sort of frameworks being constructed and put together, and that common mind share ultimately led to that open source sort of transparent library or community library and different sort of frameworks and cookbooks on how to construct these sort of DeFi primitives. But being able to we're at that stage now, I think, in the EUTXO model where we're sort of constructing all this tooling and everything like that to be utilized later, which is very exciting to see.
Yeah, and an ecosystem really benefits from not just having one thing, but plugging things together, right? Yeah. So we have a lot of parallel development that as it matures and it plugs together, it really sets a solid foundation that people can build more complex applications. And I'm quite excited. I think that we're kind of on the precipice of some major stage of growth. Let's just call it that.
Yep, most definitely. So scrolling through, next up we have WilfordGrimley. So he's been doing some research on decentralized hosting solutions because he wants to put together a censorship-resistant matrix home server for the Ergo community. So he's gotten pretty far with a reverse proxy Ubuntu Docker container and the matrix Ansible playbook with Flux as a target host. So I'm just looking into Urbit as a hosting solution also, and has purchased sigma.js domain for the project. So want to serve the home server, several bridging bots, writing bots, not too sure what that one is, and the matrix front end from the domain for ease of access to the community.
That's exciting. Looking at potentially Flux, potentially Urbit. There's a lot of good censorship resistant servers that out there that are a good idea, and they actually do make a lot of sense in extended UTXO because you do have off-chain components and applications.
Yep.
So I'm quite excited to see what Wilford's playing with.
I think it's highlights. I think it was this past week or the week prior. A hosting solution was canceling some node infrastructure from a competitor's sort of framework there. So obviously it decentralizes things, but for the most part, having that DApp infrastructure also, you did mention, and a lot of things are constructed off-chain. So utilizing those services would be fantastic.
Yeah, that censorship-resistant hosting is going to probably be important long-term.
Yep.
Did hear that Solana partnered with Google, which centralized with centralized, fun, right?
Web 2.0 for the win.
All right, let's get to liquid phase. Looks like Swamp Audio. They've been working on the UI, refactoring the front end, added areas for label, artist dashboard, user favorites, audio marketplace, artist index, DAO dashboard, DAO staking page, login form, user profiles, etc. Working on sanitizing code for all user submitted content to mitigate exploitation from trusted users. On the smart contract side, looks like they need to be updated to provide arbitrary timestamp strings to ensure uniqueness to each bootstrap contract, paid a script address. Once on-chain tests are performed, version 2, we will update GitHub with the new updated version. Once on-chain tests are successful and the concept is proven functional, we will seek to collaborate with other Ergo NFT creators to create the first layer 1 on-chain compilation NFT packs to promote the ecosystem and the contract versatility, forming transactions from front-end test to smart contract functionality from within the platform. We are hoping to release the minimal viable product to the public by the end of the year, if all goes well with their continued development. That's great to see.
Yeah, a lot of significant updates we see from the Swamp Audio team week to week. So exciting to see. And it's another thing I'd like to sort of say as well, it's taking power from a centralized entity and basically giving it back to the artists. In this case, taking away sort of like that centralized music label and providing access and for the artists to be able to promote their own music and things like that. It's pretty cool.
I remember when I was doing these updates a while ago, and I was kind of, I don't know, I would say disappointed that we didn't see more engagement from the audio NFT side, because, me personally, I'm more likely to spend money on going to a concert or, buying a song than, buying art, right?
Yep.
And, seeing this project come out, I'm pretty happy they were able to carry the torch.
It's a good way to be able to spend your erg as well and promote artists throughout the ecosystem, but even the industry as a whole. It'd be cool to see some decent names on here. A short update from the ErgoPOS team. So the point of sale system. So they created tabby.ergopos.io landing page. Enhance the security of all the APIs to a new level, and continuing to test the upgraded APIs. That's a nice use case we see, like real world use case. There's been a number of sort of updates from a point of sale terminal where people can pay in erg. It's awesome. Where are we? What's next?
Maybe Ain't Unreal.
Yep, looks like it.
All right, so it looks like Ain't Unreal's been working on the auction house, developed the search bar and search results page. They're working on responsive UI and dark mode. They've implemented all auction types they wanted: timed, fixed price, and Dutch auctions. Currently testing them on testnet. A couple of changes made to the artwork pages. Traits are shown. A few other artworks from the same collection are shown right before the footer. And a few mismatches to the design are resolved. Looks like it's also provided some feedback for EIP 40, and we'll go through it again soon. So I think it is a very important EIP, and we're going to go with it. We should be very careful about the design. And then it says that it's Glasgow. Not sure why I can't tag the ecosystem core. Please tag them here to provide feedback for EIP 40. And, also on Twitter, Ain't Unreal, dropped a tease about a framework for something that is similar to the Lightning Network on Bitcoin, but with a simpler design. So I'm also very much looking forward to that being dropped on the forum.
Most definitely. So another sort of layer 2 scaling solution that we're going to see, which is basically based on that Lightning network that you just mentioned. Okay, so Requilers has been utilizing some ErgoWash APIs, running the servers. Doesn't think that things are working on the test net. Thanks to ABC Chris for assisting on the database dump and finally migrated to the new host. So LowKeyNerd or Blitz, if you want to do some more testing on the passing of the NFTs, and then LowKey or BlitzTCG provided an update. So it's really fast. So it's 300 to 400 milliseconds. So passing around 4,000 different tokens with different token IDs, different amounts being passed and stored into the lists. So the raw query is probably faster, but it's around 300 milliseconds for 4,000 tokens. And he says, pretty nutty.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. And finally, we have networkspore with a new developer, new name.
Yeah. New name to me as well. Always glad to have new community developers on here, and it looks like you dropped some GitHub links, which we always appreciate that around here.
Definitely.
Looks like networkspore is I just finalizing a working non-blockchain enabled demo of my project and wanted to share it with the community. It's essentially a 3D RPG builder game social platform, and then drops 2 GitHub links, React app, and Node.js backend. Nice to see. The backend ArcNet has miles of zombie code in it for all the database calls that the front end would make. In the new version, lot of the load in order to distribute the network. This particular design mandates that there's a centrally controlled server to connect to peers, and that centrally controlled server is HTTPS enabled, or it must be run localhost in order for the browsers to authorize the APIs. So anybody that's in there or that's interested, please hop on. Looks like continues to say I'll update the demo link when it's ready. The area which I'm working to integrate Ergo into is the file sharing P2P. At this point, I'm working on file sharing based on individual file rights that are established when you publish the file on the network. However, the app has access to a local directory that you've assigned and all the files in it so that you can manipulate your files, but only share them how you want freely, which won't require blockchain or as an NFT, which will.
Yeah, and just below that one shares a link as well. So there's Arcturus RPG, I believe. So jump on there and check that one out. And that sums up this week's developer update. Numerous large updates as always. Once again, it's sort of my favorite time of the week, being able to jump on here and see what everyone's been working on, and some pretty significant ones. For instance, Rosen Bridge having the first transaction being sent cross-chain. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see the community engagement around here. That's one thing I've always appreciated about the Ergo ecosystem. And, that open source mindshare, it moves in phases, right? I've said for a long time that one thing that I really respect about Ethereum in terms of the development side is how they took Solidity and they built this mindshare around it. And the reality is that's why we see so many EVMs in different environments, right? But, when it comes to Ergo, building with extended UTXO is new. And so, we kind of had to start from basics, first principles, and understand the strengths, weaknesses of, this new style of programming. And, the community collaboration has really led the way. And they've done so in a way where the people that come next benefit. And that's huge. So I always have to really tip my hat and show respect to all the developers in our ecosystem that have built the right way.
Yeah, exactly. Very well said. It's cool to have that like-mindedness as well. Anyone who sort of enters the community, we can just see with networkspore, just there having the GitHub links basically through the first update. It's fantastic to see. And moving forward, it benefits everyone, like you just mentioned, and utilizing some tools. So using the React app connector and a couple other things throughout the ecosystem. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Joe, it's been a pleasure talking once again and delivering this weekly developer update. Thanks again.
Yep, always a pleasure.
Take care, everyone. Have a good one.